Ladies and gentlemen, we're back a day earlier than predicted. Welcome to an impromptu live edition of the Highbury Squad. And joining me once again today is Super Kev. Welcome to the show, Super Kev. I feel like we just spoke just a little while ago. I'm still having my California coffee. I've got the morning light coming through the window. It's all happening here. How are you doing?
Well, listen, it sounds great. It seems as though it was just a couple of minutes ago, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? It does.
It's always a pleasure, Soph. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for jumping on with me. And we know this is going to be one where probably most of our listeners enjoy on replay because it was a last minute announcement. But obviously with the news today and everything that's going on regarding Mesut, it just felt like we had to hop on and address this because let's start from the very beginning, Casey. When we signed Mesut, he lit the Arsenal universe on fire. I mean, we were all so excited. He came with a pedigree. He came with this world-class feel. We felt like we had another marquee player, and we had started acquiring those players, hadn't we? We had bought Santi, which was a very important piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Ozil came obviously with a much bigger price tag, but they added this element of sexiness to what we could do creatively in Arsene Wenger's Arsenal, and then followed Alexis Sanchez, of course. And I think we'll all agree that from a sexy football point of view, that Santi, Sanchez, Ozil trio was really quite magical.
Yeah,
and at times we saw breathtaking football. Unfortunately, Santi suffered injuries. Alexis threw his toys out the pram. And in maybe now, if we look back on it, a moment of madness, but in a moment of maybe understanding what was at stake, Arsenal re-signed Ozil and gave him his 350 grand a week contract. Now, at the time, we all celebrated the signing. Let's not lie, okay? Because we didn't want to lose him. We had already lost Sanchez to Manchester United, once again losing a player to a major rival. At the time, Santi was it? I can't remember if Santi was injured when Ozil had signed his contract at that time, Casey. But
I don't think he wasn't injured. He wasn't. No, he weren't injured at the time.
And then, of course, we added even more components and elements to support the signing of Mesut and keep up to the promise in terms of, you know, what we gave to him. But things started going pear-shaped. And there's a lot of narrative, and everyone's read the statement. I'm not going to read the statement, but he's literally shit on the club. Let's be honest, right? And this isn't new to anybody in terms of what's going on with Mesut Ozil. And there are a lot of narratives about his stance on politics and things that are going on in the world. And this podcast especially has never doubted Mesut Ozil, the humanitarian. That's never been in doubt in terms of what he's trying to do for kids. Not an issue.
Yeah.
We have always approached this from a football perspective. Yeah. And KC, I'm going to hand it over to you right now because, listen, there are times where players don't get on with clubs. They fall out with clubs. I mean, look, Alexis Sanchez was banished from Manchester United, but he didn't kind of PR it the way Ozil did. He knew he was done at Manchester United. He knew that was never going to work. It's not even worked for him when he's moved on to Inter. And some of these players that have left Arsenal Football Club, it just doesn't work. So what is your take on Ozil's response to being left out of the 25-man Premier League squad? Let's start there.
Well, I'm going to address that bit first. His statement and the fact that he's talking about loyalty, questioning the club about loyalty, saying, you know, loyalty is a very difficult thing to get and stuff like that. I just, honestly, I find that so disrespectful a statement, especially when you're employed by the club. You've been at the club all this time, you know, fair enough, it hasn't quite worked out how you wanted it in the end. But don't do that to Arsenal. If you love Arsenal, you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Sin, and I'm going to put a reference in here, Lauren Koscielny, when Koscielny, who, listen, there were times when he was injured and Arsenal backed him when he left the club. Remember, he wanted it his way. He left the club, said he wouldn't go on tour of America, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And he disrespected the club when leaving, and with that Bordeaux shirt or whatever it was, that just leaves a bad taste in people's mouths.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ozil is still here, and he is burning the club. He's burning the fans because
Deliberately.
he's doing it deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
He is doing it deliberately because you know what? This is what I will tell you from being on the inside of Arsenal. Arsenal Football Club, there's no club like Arsenal. I'm telling you now, there ain't no club like Arsenal, right? Now, whether you fall out, you fall in, you don't need to speak ill of the club, especially if you love the club. There's been many a player before Mesut Ozil who's had run-ins with the club, never ever heard a bad word. Because if you love the club and you got respect for the club, you keep your trap shut, you get on. We know he could have gone previous, but he wanted to stay because of money or whatever. His reasons. But this for me is the last straw. This for me is the last straw. He's never going to be held in the same esteem that people hold him before. I know that. And anybody who thinks it's political, no. Arsenal are a football club. And it's all about football.
And you and this is so important that we kind of really stick to the football, because KC, when you're a manager like Arteta, okay, and you've been given a dream job to go back to Arsenal Football Club, a club that you loved and captained, and you are assessing your talent, and you need to pick this club up because you have inherited an absolute mess. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
The DNA was dying. The culture was not even close to what it used to be. You had apathetic players taking big money. Are you telling me that someone that needs to come into a job and get immediate results and turn things around, knowing and understanding the pressure and the stress, if you don't, is at some points insurmountable? That if a player like Mesut Ozil, World Cup winner, you know, prolific with Real Madrid, great when he first came to Arsenal, and you know that you can build all of the sexy football and the creativity that you kind of exuded at Manchester City around him, is Arteta really leaving a play like that on the bench, Casey, if he knows he can perform out of ego?
No chance. No way. Sophie, let me tell you this. And this is what a lot of people don't actually understand. Mikel Arteta has been beside Pep Guardiola when they've played Arsenal on a regular. And they have been the ones who have set the schemes to exploit Arsenal. Okay? Mesut Ozil's playing for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta is number 2 to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. And every time they seem to wipe the floor with us. Okay? And where do they win it? They always win it in the middle of the pitch. Always. Always. So let's keep it football.
Yeah.
If they
That's what I
know,
love.
if Mikel Arteta knows Mesut Ozil is a one-way player, then they're going to let him go one way, and then that's how they're going to kill us, because the counter-attack is how they kill us. That's how they dominate us. As soon as we turn that ball over, they flood through our midfield Because one, we don't have the discipline. Two, we don't have the work rate. And three, we don't have the tenacity and the understanding to be a team and fight them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're only just starting to get that now that Arteta's in our building as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
So Mikel Arteta comes to Arsenal. He comes to Arsenal and he says, I know Mesut Ozil's talent. Mesut Ozil plays. And he picks him. But remember, this is an audition. It is always an audition. And because Mesut Ozil's on whatever he's on, is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
The bottom line is, Sophie, you still have to perform. It's about performing. It's not about what you make and, because he makes that, we have to use him. No, he's got to perform. And Mesut Ozil has not performed. He didn't perform a lot under Emery. He ended up getting dropped. Freddie's short little tenure, he got banished.
He did, yeah.
He got banished. And now under Arteta, he gets banished. And what do we hear? The narrative from other people that, it's because he's on this money or it's because of politics. No, it's because of what he's doing on the pitch. Arsenal cannot afford to carry Mesut Ozil anymore. And you know what was the defining factor? I think we mentioned it last night. Arteta has got success without him.
Correct.
He's got success. He's won an FA Cup. And I know, we ain't the finished article. Of course we're not. And we know people talk about creativity and all this kind of thing. But you know what? One thing Arteta's not going to do is not going to compromise that toughness and that work ethic for creativity, especially on a one-way player who's not committed.
Absolutely, Casey. Brilliantly put. And also, of course, he knows we need creativity. Fan base knows we need creativity, but you don't sacrifice principles and a work ethic and a strategy and a vision that you've built for an entire squad just to appease one player. Let's get this right. Arsene Wenger, who we love and adore and delivered greatness to the Arsenal. He gave us some of the most unbelievable memories and years as fans. But the truth is, he enabled Mesut. Mesut was allowed to do whatever he wanted in the last
few years.
In
his last few years.
Right. And this is the truth. This isn't us just making this up.
Oh,
these come from great sources. And he kind of walked on air a little bit. And Mesut was humbled by what happened at the World Cup. He was humbled by how Germany reacted, how the federation reacted, how his teammates reacted.
Ex-players.
Let me tell you something, Beck. Let me tell you something, Casey. When David Beckham kicked Simeone petulantly in that World Cup, and he came home to burn in effigies, hanging him in effigy, what did Beckham do? He put his head down,
rolled his sleeves up
and said, you know what? I know I let my country down, but I am going to be damned if this is going to be how I go out. I'm going to be damned if this is going to be my legacy. I will not let this happen to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the following season is the treble season, no?
Incredible. He had an incredible season.
And one of the things I've been saying, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not the way I think after what happened to Mesut Ozil with Germany and everything, he fell out of love with football. He couldn't deal with being, he was so high profile. It's okay to be high profile at one point, but it's not okay to be high profile when people point the finger at you for maybe the fact that you underperformed.
When the flag's flying.
Look at right now, people are pointing the finger at Messi saying he's not the same player and he's been great for so many years. Ronaldo's gone through this. All great players go through this. And so for Mesut Ozil, since then, and I think since Emery came on board and after Wenger left, he was so enabled, he became lazy, and he didn't think he would have to put in the work. And this started with Emery. So don't give me a hard time about standing up for Arteta in this instance, or even Freddie, because Emery was the one when he came in, and say what you want about Unai, But right away, he's like, no. This is a coach that's won the Europa League 3 times, Casey. Like,
Yeah.
forget what happened and maybe he wasn't ready in people's opinions about the Premier League, but we're also a broken team. And yes, he got a lot of things wrong, but he was very adamant about Ozil, his behavior, what he thought he was on the pitch, in training. I mean, the guy had a sense of power. And Emery was the first one that really tried to take that away from him. From a football point of view, is that right?
Yeah, and what we got to look at is this as well, Sophie. You make some really, really strong and good points, factual points. I look at, do you remember the Europa League final versus Chelsea?
Oh, yeah.
And
unfortunately.
yeah, second half, we were nowhere. That's when you need your big players, okay?
Yep.
That's when you need your big players. Unai Emery pulled Mesut Ozil off the pitch. Could you remember? Do you remember his reaction?
Yep.
Now,
that said everything.
If he was performing great, I could understand it, but he wasn't. And again, Unai Emery understood he's a one-way player.
Mm-hmm. And he's going to cost him his job.
He's going to listen, and people can have a go if they want. Mesut Ozil is not the same player that he was. And we can't, Arsenal cannot afford to carry Mesut Ozil, because you know what, I always do a comparison. Mesut Ozil should be our Kevin De Bruyne, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mesut Ozil, where is he? 50% of the player that Kevin De Bruyne is? Is he 60%, 70%? He's less.
He's not one. I'm not being harsh, but he's not been 1% of that for a very long time, Casey.
Because Kevin De Bruyne does it both ways.
Yes.
And remember, this is what Mikel Arteta has been around for season after season at Manchester City. He's seen it win. He understands what the playmaker or the creative player has to do. The creative player actually has to work harder than everybody else. And Mesut Ozil just hasn't got it, my dear. He hasn't got it anymore.
In the modern game, in this game, I mean, look, I think he was spoiled at Real Madrid, right? Because he's surrounded by world-class players at pretty much every position. There's a lot of slack that's picked up. But even when he first came to Arsenal, we saw some superb performances. The one goal, even when it was his birthday, the Champions League or UEFA folks posted was him against Ludogorets. And in my mind, I'm like, this is the problem. The greatest game I enjoyed the most was the 3-3 against Liverpool, where we were 3-0 down. And he and Sanchez,
went to town.
Oh my gosh. And it was moments like that where we were always, oh, this is it, you know. And the difference between him and a Kevin De Bruyne at that point in his career is De Bruyne would go and do it over and over again. And Mesut never was able to do it over and over again. And look at Messi and Ronaldo. Lewandowski, you know, we bring up these players because they do it every single season. Over and over again. Yes, we had slow starts with Pires and Bergkamp and Henry, but once they got going, those guys did it over and over again. Even Fabregas, who became captain afterwards in a little bit more of a lackluster side, that kid at that time, he just did it over and over again every single week. And Casey, you bring up a brilliant point, because at the end of the day, a manager is accountable for results, and he needs to know he has players in his team that are able to do the things that he wants. And Mesut Ozil, when he came to Arsenal in the latter years, just couldn't do it over and over again, Casey.
No, he couldn't be consistent. But I tell you, here's what I'm going to defend Mesut Ozil when he first came to Arsenal. Arsene Wenger never gave him the platform he needed to excel. He's young, he's got the energy, he's got the quality, etc. But he never gave it. And the reason why I say that is this, Sophie. we always knew we needed a centre half. We never got that world class centre half. We always knew we needed that centre midfielder. We never got that centre midfielder. So we're playing Mesut Ozil. Obviously, Santi's a great player, but he is not that physical presence in the middle of the pitch.
No.
You know, we had some pretenders in there, but we didn't have that Partey, for instance. If Partey was in there, then it would be different. Mesut Ozil can go, and he won't have to track back so much because Partey would be the one to win it back quickly and give it to him. So then he could do his stuff. So Wenger has to take some
responsibility.
Some responsibility for that, and he has to take that on board because he never gave him the platform. Obviously, Sanchez and Ozil had a fantastic understanding, but defensively we weren't good enough.
Right, and in that time, Pep, Heinkes, Conte, Klopp, all of these, Ferguson, all of these managers, unforgiving when it came to that part of the modern game, in that as sexy as you are and as beautiful as you are as a player, these are your responsibilities to the team as you defend as a team. This is why Liverpool have completely transformed, Casey, because they defend as a unit, as a group, as a team, not individuals, which gives me some kind of continued concern that they still might be able to pull it off without Virgil van Dijk, even though it's going to be really difficult for them to do so. And it just seemed go on.
Sophie.
Simeone. I forgot Simeone. Thanks, Archie.
Yeah, but you've mentioned something perfect there.
I have? Okay.
Yeah, you've mentioned something perfect there. Liverpool, who were their creative midfielders for the title win last season?
They had a wall. They had a great wall of Liverpool. It was like the Great Wall of China in Liverpool.
And what they done,
amazing.
That midfield were tough, physical, and they pressed. And when they won it, they got the ball to their forwards to score. That's all they done.
And they had Trent and Robertson. And boom.
Robertson. And that was it. They could defend properly. That's why they invested in Van Dijk. They got a goalkeeper who's top class. Let's go for it, guys. I don't want to hear Arsenal fans telling me or you about Mesut Ozil needs to come in because he'll create. He's been in the side and we get done on the counter-attack all the time. Why? Because he will not work. And I know it's not his game, but Mikel Arteta has schemed against Arsenal while he's been Arsenal's team.
Yes.
Thought he could turn it around once he's got there, but it's not there. He hasn't got it.
And the game evolves. The game he played at Real Madrid and the game he played for us when he first came, it's a different beast now. You know, these creative players are asked to do a little bit more. And when he's been asked to do it, he's performed terribly. He's not done a great job. He's almost been apathetic in certain games when he's asked to do what he's been asked to do. And here's the scoop, Casey, because do you think Arsenal should counter his statement today, or do you think they should? Because here's the thing, to you and I and most sensible Arsenal fans, this is all about football. This isn't about politics.
No.
And I just want to say very quickly, because we're not a political show here, he was picked multiple times by Arteta, even after he came out with his political views about China. Okay. Yeah. So let's not make this about politics. And I think he kind of did that in his statement, which was, again, another slight on the club. Same thing with Gunnosaurus. Did you go to Aubameyang, the captain of this team, and say, hey, Oba, listen, let's do this. It'll be great. You, me, the rest of the players will all go in and we'll do this great gesture. He didn't do that. Why didn't he do that? Because he's a PR machine. He always wants to be on the positive side on the story. And the sad thing is he does so many great things in life that he is the positive side on the story. But what he's done is he's utilized Arsenal Football Club as a mechanism for negativity. Right, Casey?
100%.
So should 100%. The club respond to his statement?
No. The club, the club, now the club just need to be quiet, because look at us. We're discussing it. Everybody's going to be talking about
Hmm.
it. And you know what? It doesn't paint Mesut Ozil in a good light. So why would the club even remotely answer? And it's something that, and get embroiled in a battle. They don't need to. The club or the football club. Mesut Ozil's talking about loyalty, and it's the club who are paying him. The club have paid him
Hmm.
all these years.
Hmm.
He's still an employee.
Hmm.
I just think
I
no.
think about this when I was working at 20th Century Fox and Sony Pictures. They're paying me good money, right? I was thinking to myself today, wow, if I went on social media and dissed my employer all the time, do you think I'd have a job?
No,
I wouldn't have a job, Casey.
no, you
I
wouldn't
either
have a
would
job.
have, and I wouldn't have had a job because I would have got, and if I'm going in Ozil's chronological order, I would have had a verbal warning, a written warning, and then I would have been given my pink slip.
You'd have got the tic tac, yeah.
The fact that the club have been so patient with his PR moves says a lot about our club. And I think people need to flip this a little bit. Don't look at this as a political thing. This has got nothing to do with that. Arsenal Football Club is a global brand that supports people from all walks of life, no matter their religion, the color of their skin, or their
Creed, the
sexual
color, yes,
preference.
yes.
Arsenal Football Club are a staple in our local community on the ground in Islington. And if you just take 1 minute to see what they do for their fan base in the Americas, in Africa, in Asia, Australasia, they are ingrained in doing good things for good people.
Mhm.
I'm not having this trying to paint the picture that Arsenal didn't stand up for Mesut, when really this is about the regression of a footballer who was given a contract. And that is where the club's biggest mistake was. But at the same time, it was the best decision, wasn't it, Casey? Based on what was going on at the club. Money
At the
wise, we can
time,
say it was a wash.
yeah,
But at the time,
at the time, Arsenal needed to make a statement to the fans, because they had allowed two of the best players at the club to run their contracts down. Now, if Arsenal lose Mesut Ozil and Sanchez that summer, it sends the wrong message out to the fans.
exactly.
It is catastrophic for Arsenal Football Club. So, listen, Arsenal had to sign. If they could have got both of them done, great. But they had to sign one. Mesut Ozil got it. Mesut Ozil got his contract, because look, to replace Mesut Ozil, to replace him, it would have cost an absolute fortune.
Hmm.
So, listen, Arsenal done the right thing in re-signing him. And Mesut Ozil had good years. But the issue is this, Sophie. If people think Arsenal make these decisions on anything other than football decisions, you don't understand football.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because let me tell you something. If you're doing the business in as a footballer, Sophie, if you're doing the business, the club will they'll accept it. They'll
And
accept
Case
what he wants to say. They'll
and
accept it.
and KC, as an ex-footballer who's played for the club also and played at the highest level, all this stuff about him in his statement saying, I will continue to train hard and I'll continue to train hard. I'm like, do you think Arteta and his coaching staff are seeing you in training and thinking that, oh, he's so good, but we're not going to play him because he said this? Oh my God, they just want to win. People are so naive sometimes too, aren't they, Casey?
Yeah,
Coaches want to win.
everybody wants to listen. Mikel Arteta is a winner. He wants to win. Now, nobody can tell me if Mesut Ozil was doing the business, was on his game, and he could influence what was going on the pitch, Mikel Arteta wouldn't have him involved in the squad.
Uh,
Nobody could tell
Absolutely.
me that, because he would. He would. The bottom line is Mesut Ozil is not the player, is not the person that he's making out to be. He's not the player that he once was, and he's not the
Right.
person that he's making out to be.
And KC, you and I have been in situations professionally, off the pitch, on the pitch, or whatever, and me in the corporate environment where I've managed teams where, listen, we're human beings. We don't like everyone we work with. We don't get along with everyone we work with. But when you have respect for someone because of their talent, I've managed people in my team that I don't necessarily like, but as a professional and what they do, I'm like, you're in my team. You're doing a phenomenal job. I may not like you as a person, but that has nothing to do with the fact that you do a phenomenal job. And the difference is that, you know, Ozil may have come across as whoever he is to certain people at the club. But at the end of the day, if he still had the hunger, the fight, the prowess, don't post a picture a day after you've been told something or the club says something and you try to manipulate the situation and embarrass the football club that have paid you millions and millions and millions of pounds. For me, at this point, it's one of those situations where he could have walked off into the sunset like a legend.
Mm-hmm.
For me, he does not have zero of that status because the club is always bigger than any player, Casey. 100%. As much as Henri did, and as Bergkamp and Brady and Armstrong and Charlie George
Pat
and
Rice,
Patrick Rice,
name them.
Dixon, all of these guys. The club is bigger than all of you.
Everybody, yes. The club is the constant. It is the constant. The club is the constant.
And he tried to become bigger than the club because of his global reach. Look, there's no doubt that look at everyone's following on Instagram. He is the biggest following of any player on Instagram. And maybe there was a financial gain for Arsenal too in terms of image rights and the money they were making off Ozil as well. That's business.
Yeah, but Sophie, again, I'm going to get back to it. He's only an asset to the club if he's performing. If he's not performing, but you're holding on to him for a fan base, come on now. We're talking about Arsenal Football Club here. No, that doesn't wash at all. And that's why he is being left out, because he can't do his job properly. And he's not doing his job properly. Because
you could Tierney's selling more shirts. Tierney's selling more shirts than him.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is, Tierney is doing the business. This is what football clubs are. If you are doing the business, you are an asset. If you're not doing the business, you are a depreciating asset. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what you are. But Ozil is not the now and the future. So unfortunately, and you know, football's about timing. The timing is, this is Ozil's last 6 months or whatever it is, 7 months at Arsenal Football Club. Mm-hmm. You know, the maximum is what, 7-8 months. That's the max he'll be there. And that's it, Sophie. That's it. Because at the end of the day, Arsenal have to move on from Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, completely. Listen, he helped us get back to winning ways in the Cups.
Yes.
He did not, barring one game, I don't know. Do you have any recollection of a great Champions League game other than the Ludogorets game? I struggle.
Look. There's anything. There's snippets and fits and starts of Mesut Ozil's quality. Okay. Yes, he's an assist machine. But let me just say this to you, Sophie. It's no point being an assist machine if you don't win. Winning is what changes Ozil from being a good player, super player, to the legend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got legendary status with Germany. He's got legendary status at Real Madrid, etc. He is kind of a legend at Arsenal, but getting over the hump and being that guy for Arsenal is what really matters. Because you know what? Whatever politics he's got, keep it out there, because Arsenal are a football club. Mm-hmm. And what is your job? What do you get paid to do? You get paid to play and perform. That is what you get paid to do. And he hasn't been doing it.
So what's his legacy?
his legacy. Well, Alan Smith actually said it quite right. He is, and I said I defended him when he first came in, and Arsene Wenger. Some of the Wenger years didn't give him the platform to play because those were his best years, probably.
Yeah, we didn't capitalize on them, perhaps.
Yeah, we
That's not
didn't
his fault, but
capitalize
we've
on it.
been
And no,
vocal about that. That's
exactly,
the
and
truth.
it's not his fault. That's 100%. So this isn't just a witch hunt on Mesut Ozil. We back Mesut Ozil when we need to, but we tell the truth when we need to.
Absolutely.
Mesut Ozil's talent has been wasted at Arsenal Football Club. It's been wasted. Alan Smith said it, and he makes some really, really good. Anybody who wants to check it out on Sky. Alan Smith says it bang on. Mesut Ozil's talent is wasted because when you've got that sort of talent, he's still supposed to be lighting it up. He is still supposed to be lighting it up, but he chooses not to, and I don't know why. Or he just doesn't have it in him anymore. Because you know what, Sophie? Let me tell you this. When you're the top player, it is hard. Because you know what, Sophie? Whatever happens at the football club, it comes back on you. That's when you're talking about leaders. That's why we've seen some of the great leaders at Arsenal who took it on their shoulders, who took the hits, and when all of the flack is flying around, they stood up and they were counted. But I don't see that from Mesut Ozil.
So how do things shake out from here? He's not in the squad for
He's done.
Premier League, so he's not part of anything. So we're just paying him until his contract ends next year.
Yeah, if that's what he wants, because I think the club have had enough of all this jargon and toing and throwing and disloyalty from him. If you ask me, so I think the club have accepted that we're happy to pay him up until June.
And KC, let's not forget also that he had posted a picture in a Real Madrid uniform kit just 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I'm like, if you'd have done that, I'd be upset with you when you were playing for Arsenal. You're playing for Arsenal. Arsenal are paying your wages. Don't act like this is a throwback picture of you in your Real Madrid kit. That's just not cool. These are the mind games that he's played. And I understand there is a couple of upset people in chat and stuff like that. One that's come across as a little bit of, we don't like abuse here. And we always have very upfront, honest discussions. We are being honest about Mesut Ozil, the footballer. This is what we are talking about. We're talking about football. And as an Arsenal fan, please be honest with yourself. Please be honest about the evolution of Mesut. We all agree, and Casey's made the point brilliantly, that there are times in the beginning where we didn't back him up and his talent. Because 100%. When he first came, the kid was on fire.
He was mustard. He was mustard.
And when we signed him, we couldn't believe that we signed him, right? Because there were a lot of clubs after Mesut Ozil at the highest level across all European leagues. But also, as a great player, you have to then immerse yourself into, look at Ronaldo's not as naturally gifted as Messi. He's just not. But he worked his arse off at it. David Beckham, he was not naturally gifted like other Manchester United players. But what did he do? He stayed after and trained and perfected. Frank Lampard. He was not same, right? So when you look at players who apply themselves, at some point you have to say to yourself, how much has he tried? How much has he really tried to make a difference to his game? How much did he really try to prove Unai Emery wrong, Freddie wrong, Arteta wrong? He's rested on his fame, his following, and a group of supporters that will never let him down. And he's utilized what he does off the pitch as a weapon to attack Arsenal on the pitch. And these are the facts.
Like it or not, they are the facts. Now, the bottom line is this. Mesut Ozil story is going to end sad. when it really should be a story that's held that's with flashing lights on it. It
Hmm.
should be in bright lights, but it's going to end out sad. Why? Because the player chooses it to go that way, not the club, the player.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, we have, if you remember rightly, Sophie, we've had players at the club who were struggling before. And flack's been flying around and stuff. But
Hmm.
what did they do? They never came out and said anything. They never posted any pictures of them in a previous club's kit. What did they do? They got their
Knuckle
nut
down.
down, they
Hmm.
knuckled down, and they turned the fans around. They
Hmm.
turned their form around and became legends, etc.
Look at
This is what it's
Xhaka.
about.
Xhaka had
Exactly.
the worst night of his life when he was made captain, and he was a scapegoat too, substituted by the coach that handed him all of that. And he just put his head down, didn't say too much, got abuse, death threats for his entire family, and came back and just grafted and showed. To me, that's really showing that you love the club. You can say you love the club, but do you really love the club?
What you're saying is, like the saying goes, don't tell me, show me.
Show me.
But he
Yep.
doesn't. Mesut Ozil doesn't show. He talks a talk, but he don't walk it.
Yep. Yep. And thank you, James. Yeah, I mean it's a listen. No one ever wants the player, an Arsenal's player career to end this way, but they're don't play the victim in life. I,
True.
I I could mention a whole bunch of things right now, but perhaps I won't. But there are a lot of people in my life, and whether they're in the entertainment industry that I know or in sports, that have knuckled down and had to turn things around because of adversity and because of a lot of different challenging issues. And Super Kev, you're someone that inspires us every single day because no matter what happens, you got to keep on going. No
100%.
excuses, no excuses, none.
Do you know what? There's a saying out there, Sophie. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but I'm sure you have. No, nobody cares
Nope.
what your problems are. People carry on like they care, and you might have a few people who care. But you know the majority of people, nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares.
Nope.
You have to deal with it yourself. You have to deal with your issues. You have to deal with it. And however you deal with it to get yourself out of it, you come out of it, it's a job well done.
Absolutely. Great feedback, Casey. And as an ex-pro, I look to you for that light in the feedback here on Ozil. And I'm going to let you go now as well because you're covering the Real Madrid game tonight in the Champions League.
I
But
am, yeah.
listen, you guys, at the end of the day, we love Arsenal Football Club. We loved Mesut Ozil as a player. Some of you may still love him. Some of you may have lost respect for him. Some of you may think the club has been unfair on him. Some of you may think that he's been a PR nightmare for the club. But just always know there's two sides to every story. And then there's the truth. And
The third side. Yeah.
as we go, we will find out more about this. But I think we all hoped that we would get Mesut back. We all wished that we would have the same player. We all wanted and craved for Mesut to be great again. But unfortunately, sometimes things just don't work out. Happens to lots of clubs and lots of superstars. And he shines so bright from a young age. And at some point, sometimes in your career, like a writer's block or a songwriter who can't string a tune together anymore, it's over. And he may still end up here in LA, Casey. I don't know. And
Yeah, you
that'll
never
be
know. You never know. And you
never
know
know.
what? It might suit him. Wherever he goes, it might suit him and he performs. I hope he does. Because you know what? He is a quality player. He has unbelievable ability. But in the Premier League, Arsenal can't afford to carry anybody. And Arteta's had some success without him. So if he's not going to do what Arteta wants, then he's not going to play. So it's no point having him around it's no point having him in the squads if he's not going to do what you want.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure there'll be more coming to light about this. Hopefully it will not dominate what will be, hopefully this puts to bed everything so we can move on with the rest of the season and focus on the team, our progress, how we're moving forward with Arteta, the players that are there and engaged, KC, and that want to play and move on. And so for us, this is our honest opinion about Mesut Ozil, and we've kept it to football because at the end of the day, we judge Mesut on football. We don't judge human beings or politics. People can believe what they want and they can fight for what they believe in. But at the end of the day, we've been looking at this as Mesut Ozil, the footballer, and he hasn't been the same for a long, long time.
Very true.
KC, enjoy the Champions League. And on that note, I'll let you have the last word.
Listen, no matter what, it's always about the Gunners. Come on, you Arsenal.
Get in.